Are you now feeling the pressure? Because I think there's a petition that's currently
Your approval
online
ratings have dropped.
1.9 people who want the election to go again.
It's now
Is it 2 million now?
It's now just over 2 million.
Do you feel the pressure?
Look, I remind myself that very many people didn't vote Labour at the last election. I'm not surprised that many of them want a rerun. That isn't how our system works. There would be plenty of people who didn't want us in the first place. So, look, what I focus on is the decisions that I have to make.
3 million signatures, 39% disapproval rate, 16 foreign trips in just 5 months. These figures are not just statistics, they signal a deep crisis in the reign of Keir Starmer. And so, against this gloomy background, he again takes a step that causes heated discussions. If we can't trust him now, how can we hope for his reliability in the future? I have information that you definitely won't want to miss, and it can change your perception of what is happening. Keir Starmer, once considered the rising star of British politics, became a symbol of hope and expectation when he led the Labour Party. He promised to open a new chapter after the controversial reign of Jeremy Corbyn, inspiring many to believe that he is capable of restoring the party to its lost positions. His first statements were full of confidence and determination to change the image of the party, eradicate anti-Semitism, and hold Boris Johnson accountable for his actions in the face of the terrible crisis caused by COVID-19. But now that the reality is what it is, the question arises, is he really capable of fulfilling his promises?
Interesting as you say, tough but fair, that's what you just said. But then there are pensioners who wouldn't say it was fair. There are farmers who wouldn't say it was fair. There are parents of private school children that wouldn't say it was fair either.
Small businessmen who wouldn't. I spoke to a friend this morning. He employs quite a few people on minimum wage. He's saying he might have to shut his business down because his national insurance now will be so high that he's going to have to shut the business down. That means people are going to lose jobs. How do you balance this? You know, it feels like you still compete to pay Paul.
Tough but fair.
You've got to look. You have to make decisions. At the end of the day, we inherited a broken economy. £22 billion was unaccounted for on the books, so we had to fill that black hole. At the same time, I knew we had to put money into the health service. We had to put money into our schools. And so you have to make choices. You can't do both.
However, this promising beginning has rapidly faded away. Today, Keir Starmer's approval rating has collapsed to a shocking -39, which is even lower than during the most difficult times of Boris Johnson's reign. This is an alarming signal that eloquently indicates a deep loss of trust. The strong image he had so diligently built is now overshadowed by a series of blunders and blunders. At the party conference, Starmer failed to present a clear and convincing policy, and his attempts to make jokes, for example, a joke about Liz Truss, turned into a mockery of himself. Those who once believed in his leadership are now leaving, disappointed and saddened that their hopes for a strong and determined leader have been in vain. What was the reason for this rapid decline? This may be due to both inconsistent policy changes and an inability to take advantage of the scandals that have rocked the Conservative Party. But probably the key factor is the lack of strategic vision and trust. The numbers don't lie. -39 is not just a sign of moderate discontent. It is a cry for help from a significant part of the population tired of uncertainty and disappointment. These figures hide unfulfilled promises, abrupt policy changes, and a growing split within the Labour Party that threatens its future.
Those are the things that were said for many years. They're not true, and I think they got us into the problem. So I'm not pretending for anybody impacted that things aren't tough. I don't think that's fair or right, whoever is impacted. But political choices are about saying, I do think that just at the moment we've got to pick the NHS up. We've got to get those waiting lists down. We've got to make that a priority. If you're going to do that, you have to take tough decisions. As long as they're tough and fair, I think people do understand that. But pretending that you can fix all the problems but not raise a penny in tax or anything else, that's a fiction. And I think most people do understand.
Instead of boldly facing reality and trying to overcome the split, Starmer chose to simply turn a blind eye to it. Almost 3 million people have signed a petition demanding new general elections. This is a shocking figure, exceeding the population of many countries. Signatures are coming from all over the country, from people from all walks of life, not just from those who once supported the Labour Party. People sign up not for party reasons, but because they feel betrayed and deceived. A Yorkshire farmer is furious that Starmer, who once promised to support rural communities, is now proposing an inheritance tax that threatens the survival of family farms. A teacher from Manchester bitterly notes that promises to improve education turned out to be just empty words, and the situation has become even worse than it was. This discontent is not limited to the voters of the Labour Party. Even those who once supported the Conservative Party or the Liberal Democrats, as well as those who are usually indifferent to politics, are beginning to speak out openly. This is not just a political issue, it is a real crisis of trust. Meanwhile, Starmer rejected the petition, claiming that it was full of forged signatures and was under the influence of foreign powers, which only adds fuel to the fire. This wave of discontent will not be easy to suppress. The British public is no longer ready to tolerate disregard or arrogance.
Always good to have you with us. Have you signed the petition yourself?
I have indeed, and I'm promoting the petition. And there's a good reason for that. I think this shows that Keir Starmer is in a really difficult position. Everybody knows how petitions work and how we elect governments and all the rest of it. But what it is showing is that there's real discontent in terms of the fact that Keir Starmer lied in the run-up to the general election, won votes, got elected on the basis of a series of lies, and then once he's got in power, he's done the absolute opposite, and people are extremely unhappy about it.
Starmer's transformation from a symbol of hope to a centre of change is a bitter testament to his inability to deliver on the promises that once inspired people. Commitments such as supporting family businesses and protecting rural communities now sound like empty words full of hypocrisy. His inheritance tax threatens to destroy established farms, and thousands of farmers, overcome with anger and a sense of betrayal, are heading to Westminster to protest, demanding justice. Even within the Labour Party, the frustration is becoming unbearable. One of the party members openly stated that the current policy has nothing to do with the ideals that they once proudly proclaimed. Nevertheless, Starmer's team continues to stubbornly adhere to the principle of financial responsibility, as if they do not notice the real consequences of their decisions for society.
This petition, this petition is getting there much more quickly. It even has the endorsement of Michael Caine. I'm happy to be on the side of Michael Caine, who's promoting this petition as well. People are very angry out there, and they want to show discontentment, and this is one way in which they can do that.
Well, let's have a listen to the man that started the petition. Here he is speaking to Julia a little earlier.
The problem is they're in a position of power now, and it's through lies. You should be truthful with the British public about what they were going to do when they was in power. Julia, if you or I applied for a job, and after 3 months we couldn't do the job that we said because...
While discontent is growing, Keir Starmer still cannot offer a clear plan to restore trust, leaving people in a state of confusion and despair. The numbers speak for themselves, and the public is becoming more and more impatient, ready for change. His future will certainly become more difficult if he does not take decisive steps. It's hard to find a single Keir Starmer campaign promise that hasn't been changed or forgotten. The number of unfulfilled promises has reached unacceptable levels, and his indifference to the growing frustration of the public only fuels anger and discontent. Starmer acts as if everything is fine, despite the sharp decline in support, and this only causes even more outrage among those who hoped for change.
Well, on the basis of the first 100 days, I can't see that as a plausible argument. But what it does do, it says to a lot of Labour backbenchers that we're not happy with your performance. Yeah. So a lot of Labour MPs, especially in marginal seats, of which there are many, will be thinking, and you can get the results by constituency as well, they'll be thinking, hang on, that's my majority gone, which might result in Keir Starmer going at some stage.
People are increasingly realizing that they have been deceived. The most outraged thing is that he pretends that he never made any commitments, and this behavior quickly undermines trust. His proposal to change the inheritance tax was only the beginning of his chaotic domestic policy. On the international stage, his actions are even more disappointing. At a time when the country is facing a serious crisis, instead of focusing on pressing issues, Starmer preferred to spend time traveling abroad. In just 5 months, he made 16 trips abroad. Meanwhile, the cost of living continues to rise, the National Health Service is on the verge of collapse, and a petition calling for his resignation is gathering millions of signatures. What do you think about this video? Share your thoughts in the comments. See you later.